Rome had seen many betrayals, but few were as cold, as personal, and as irreversible as this one. This was not the story of enemies meeting on a battlefield. It was the story of two brothers, one throne, and a choice that would stain Rome forever. When Emperor Septimius Severus died in the year 211 AD, he left behind an empire stretched thin by war and ambition. Yet the most dangerous legacy he left was not political or military, but personal. On his deathbed, he made a fatal decision. He named both of his sons as emperors, Caracalla and Geta, two brothers, one empire, one crown. From the very beginning, it was clear this arrangement could not last. Caracalla was aggressive, impulsive, and obsessed with absolute power. Geta was cautious, calculating, and deeply suspicious of his older brother. Their personalities clashed as violently as their ambitions. They did not truly rule together. They merely coexisted, bound by blood, but divided by fear. The imperial palace in Rome itself was split in two. Separate wings, separate guards, separate entrances. Even servants were forbidden to cross from one side to the other. They passed each other like strangers, always surrounded by armed men, hands never far from their swords. Rome whispered. The army whispered. The Senate whispered. Everyone understood what the emperors refused to admit. Rome could not survive two rulers who hated each other. Soldiers feared civil war. Officials feared executions. Merchants feared instability. Their mother, Julia Domna, tried desperately to hold them together. She believed family could overcome ambition, that blood was stronger than power. She spent her days moving between their courts, negotiating peace like a diplomat between enemy states. But she was wrong. Every council meeting ended in silence or rage. Every decision became a struggle for dominance. Every night carried the unspoken fear of assassination. Caracalla was the first to decide that coexistence was impossible. He had grown up believing the empire belonged to him alone. If Rome could only have one emperor, then his brother had to be removed. But killing an emperor openly would risk rebellion. Geta was popular with the people, respected by many soldiers, and seen as a stabilizing force. A public execution would turn Rome against Caracalla, so he chose deception instead of force. Caracalla approached his mother with an offer of reconciliation, a private meeting, no guards, no weapons, no politics, just family. Julia Domna agreed, clinging to the hope that her sons could still be saved from destroying each other. In December of that year, Geta entered his mother's private chambers. He trusted her. He trusted the palace walls. Caracalla arrived moments later. At first, the conversation was calm, their voices low, tension thick in the air. Then, without warning, the doors burst open. Armed soldiers rushed into the room. Geta barely had time to understand what was happening. He did not reach for a weapon. He ran toward his mother. He clung to her, desperate, terrified. Blood spilled onto the marble floor as the soldiers struck him again and again. Julia Domna screamed as her son was murdered in her arms. His final breaths were taken beneath the very roof meant to protect him. Caracalla watched. When it was over, he turned and left the room without a word. Rome awoke to a single emperor. But Caracalla knew murder was not enough. As long as Geta was remembered, he remained a threat. Loyalty could survive death. Memory could inspire rebellion. So Caracalla ordered something unprecedented. Anyone who had supported Geta was marked for death. Friends, officials, soldiers. Entire families were punished. Thousands were executed in the months that followed. Fear replaced grief. silence replaced loyalty. Then came the final act of erasure. Geta's name was chiseled out of inscriptions. His face was scratched from statues. His image was removed from coins. Records were altered. History itself was forced to forget him. This punishment had a name: damnatio memoriae, the condemnation of memory. But memory is never so easily destroyed. Rome felt the weight of what had happened. The empire had crossed a line from rivalry into moral collapse. Caracalla ruled alone, but never peacefully. He ruled through fear, suspicion, and violence. He trusted no one. He saw enemies in every shadow and betrayal in every whisper. He slept surrounded by guards, always expecting the fate he himself had delivered. In the end, power consumed him, just as it had consumed his brother. Years later, Caracalla himself would be assassinated by his own guards, a victim of the same brutality he had embraced. Rome learned its lesson once again. Power does not corrupt suddenly. It corrodes slowly, quietly, from within. Empires do not always fall when enemies breach their walls. Sometimes they fall in whispered rooms, behind closed doors, among family.